Hi guys, it's Mrs. Giles here, and we're on to Chapter 8, Joe and the Magic Snowman. I'm very excited about reading this. I have read it already, so I knew the questions to ask you. It's a really good chapter. Now you have to excuse me because I have got a little bit of a cold, so I'm a bit snivelly. I'm going to try really hard not to touch my face and be really good, okay? Right, you ready guys? Let's do this. So, Chapter 8, Joe and the Magic Snowman. Moonface was most upset to see Joe disappear. "I told him not to! I told him!" he groaned. "You didn't," sobbed Franny. "Your mouth was full of toffee, and all you could say was ooble, ooble, ooble. And how could we know what that meant?" "Where's Joe now?" asked Beth, quite pale with shock. Yes, indeed, where was Joe? Someone had lifted him right off the ladder, up into the land of ice and snow. And there, strangely enough, the moon and the sky were Sorry guys, I'm going to start that paragraph again. Yes, indeed, where was Joe? Someone had lifted him right off the ladder, up into the land of ice and snow. And there, strangely enough, the moon and the sun were in the sky at the same time, one at one side and the other the opposite, both shining with a pale light. Joe shivered, for it was very cold. He looked up to see what had lifted him off the ladder, and he saw, in front of him, a big, strange creature. A snowman! He was just like the snowmen Joe had often made in the winter time, round and flat and white, with an old hat stuck on his head and a carrot for his nose. "This is luck," said the snowman in a soft, snowy sort of voice. "I've been standing by that hole for days, waiting for a seal to come up, and you came." "Oh," said Joe, remembering that seals came up to breathe through holes in the ice. "That wasn't a water hole. That was the hole that led down to the faraway tree. I want to go back, please." "The hole is closed up," said the snowman. Joe looked, and to his great dismay, sadness, he saw that a thick layer of ice had formed over the hole, so thick that he knew perfectly well he could never break through it. "Whatever shall I do now?" he said. "Just what I tell you," said the snowman, with a grin. Kind of smile. Maybe a cheeky grin. "This is splendid. In this dull and silent land, there is nothing but polar bears and seals and penguins. I have often wanted to talk to someone." "How did you get here?" asked Joe, wrapping his coat firmly round him, for he was bitterly cold. "Ah," said the snowman, "that's a long story. I was made by some children long ago, and when they had finished me, they laughed at me and threw stones at me to break me up. So that night I crept away here and made myself king. But what's the good of being king if you've only bears and things to talk to? What I want is a really good servant who can talk my language. And now you've come." "But I don't want to be your servant," said Joe indignantly. That means he's really no, definitely not. "Nonsense," said the snowman, and he gave Joe a push that nearly sent him over. Then, on big, flat snow feet, he moved forward to where there was a low wall of snow. "Make me a good house," he said. "I don't know how to," said Joe. "Oh, just cut blocks off this stiff, icy snow and build them up on top of another," said the snowman. "When you've finished, I'll give you a warm coat to wear. Then you won't shiver so much. Joe didn't see that he could do anything but obey. That means follow the orders if you obey someone. So he picked up the shovel that was lying by the wall and began to cut up big bricks of the frozen snow. When he had cut about 20, he stopped and placed them on top of another till one side of the round house was made. What type of house do you think they might be building in the land of snow? Then he began to cut snow bricks again, wondering all the time how in the world he would ever be able to escape from this strange land. Joe had often built little snow houses of soft snow in his garden at home during the winter. Now he had made a big one, with proper snow blocks, as hard as bricks. He quite enjoyed it, though he did wish the girls were there too. When he had finished it and made a nice rounded roof, the snowman came shuffling up. Can you imagine the snowman shuffling on his big feet? "Very nice," he said. "Very nice indeed. I can just get in, I think." He squeezed his big snow body inside and threw out a bit thick coat for Joe, made of wool as soft and as white as the snow all around. Joe put it on very thankfully. Then he tried to squeeze in after the snowman, for he wanted to be out of the cold, icy wind. But he was so squashed between the snowman and the walls of the snow house that he couldn't breathe. "Don't push so," said the snowman disagreeably. "Move up." "I can't," gasped poor Joe. He felt quite certain that he would be pushed right out of the snow hut through a hole in the wall. Just then came a curious grunt at the doorway. The snowman called out at once, "Is that you, Fairy? Take this boy back to your home under the ice. He's a nuisance here. He keeps squashing me." Joe looked up to see who Fairy was, and he saw a great white bear looking in. There's the picture. What kind of house did he build? It's called an igloo. Yeah, igloo, made of ice and snow. The bear had a stupid but kind look on his face. "Humph," said the bear, and pulled Joe out into the open air. Joe knew it was no use to struggle. Nobody could get away from a bear as big as that. But the bear was certainly very kind. "Humph," he said to Joe with a loud grunting noise. "I don't know what you mean," said Joe. The bear said no more. He just took Joe along with him, half carrying the little boy, for Joe found the way very slippery indeed. Why was it slippery? They came to a hole that led under the ice and snow. The bear pushed Joe down it, and to Joe's enormous surprise, he found there was a big room underneath, with 5 bears there, big and little. It was quite warm there too. Joe was astonished, for there was no heater, of course. "Humph," said all the bears politely. "Humph," said Joe. That pleased the bears very much indeed. They came and shook paws with Joe very solemnly, it's quite sad, and oomphed all over him. Joe liked the look of the bears much more than he liked the look of the snowman. He thought perhaps they might help him to escape from this silly land of ice and snow. "Could you tell me the way back to the faraway tree?" he asked the bears politely and clearly. The bears looked at one another and then oomphed at Joe. It was quite clear that they didn't understand a word he said. "Never mind," said Joe with a sigh, and made up his mind to put up with things till he could see a way to escape. The snowman was a great nuisance. No sooner did Joe settle himself down for a nap, leaning his head against the big, warm body of a bear, than there came a call from the snow house. "Hey, boy, come here and play dominoes with me." So Joe had to go and play dominoes. And as the snowman wouldn't let him come into the house, because he said he was squashed, Joe had to sit at the doorway and play, and he nearly froze to bits. Then another time, just as he was eating a nice bit of fried fish, that one of the bears had kindly cooked for him, the snowman shouted to him to come and make him a window in his house. And Joe had to hurry off and cut a sheet of clear ice to fit into one side of the snow house for a window. Really, that snowman was a perfect nuisance. I wish to goodness I'd never stepped into this silly land, thought Joe 100 times. It's a good thing the bears are so nice to me. I only wish they could say something else besides oomph. Joe wondered what Beth and Franny were doing. Were they very upset when he didn't come back? Would they go home and tell Father and Mother about what had happened? Beth and Franny were upset. It had been dreadful to see poor Joe disappear through the cloud like that. Moonface looked very solemn too. He could speak quite well now that he had swallowed all his toffee. We must rescue him, he said, his face shining like the full moon. How? Asked the girls. I must think, said Moonface, and he shut his eyes. His head swelled up with his thinking. He opened his eyes and nodded his head. We'll go to Goldilocks and the 3 bears, he said. Sorry, guys. Her bears know the land of ice and snow. She might be able to help Joe that way. But where does Goldilocks live? Asked Beth in wonder. I thought she was just a fairy tale. Gracious no, said Moonface. Come on, we'll have to catch the train. What train? Asked Fanny in astonishment. Oh, wait and see, said Moonface. Hurry now, go down the slippery slip and wait for me at the bottom. Oh, I enjoyed that chapter, children. That was really good. I really hope they get to rescue Joe, though. I wouldn't want to be trapped with a snowman. That wasn't very nice. Right, guys, so I have some questions, and I've typed them up so you can download them from the website as well, and I'll put them on the Facebook post so you know what they are. Are you ready? So, guys, these are the questions for Chapter 8, Joe and the Magic Snowman. Right, question 1. Why do you think Beth went quite pale with shock? That was at the beginning of the chapter. Question 2. In the land of ice and snow, what was in the sky at the same time? Number 3. How do you think Joe felt when the hole back to the faraway tree closed up? Question 4. Who was the king in the land of ice and snow? What did the king want? Question 5. Why was the snowman a great nuisance? What do you think nuisance means? And the last question, question 6. Who does Moonface think will be able to help them rescue Joe? And remember, you can go back and watch the video again, pause it, see if you can find the text, find the information, the answers. Well done, guys. Sorry I've not been feeling my best today. You can tell I've got a cold from my eyes, though. See you soon. Bye.